In 2024, every industry has reached saturation. Now you either crush your competitors or you get crushed by them. Facing such an environment, the most tragic are actually us common folks at the bottom. I just saw a lot of videos about the supermarket, clothing, and catering industries. Many bosses who have invested tens or hundreds of thousands of yuan end up losing it all in a few months. If you go out on the streets now, there's really no one. Some say my videos are selling anxiety, but look at the comments section, look on the streets. In fact, most physical store owners are in this state. Many chain stores have closed down, even Walmart. I just saw in a video that a supermarket that has been open for over 20 years suddenly announced closure. A 20-year-old store can't make it, let alone newcomers. Every industry, down to the vegetable markets, is deserted. Even essentials aren't selling. Where have all the people gone? This woman has been running her store for 13 years and says her business has never been as bad as it is now. In fact, most Chinese people clearly feel that it is increasingly difficult to make money now. Because no one is making money, no one is spending. All of society is caught in a vicious cycle.
Look, you may not owe much debt if you don't work hard. But in this market, if you do business, no matter how hard you try, the more effort you put in, the deeper you may sink. I think it's better if you lie flat and don't try. The streets are like this at 10 o'clock. See anyone? Those of us who have stores, we look at each other. That's it, just looking at each other. Really, if this goes on, I'm telling you, we'll all be standing on the street with a bowl begging for food. What goods can we put out? The income from begging might be higher than the income from selling goods. That's the market now. Look, no one here. No one here either. Just one lady, the boss washing vegetables over there. That street is the same. What do we do?
This year, it's not about whether you work hard or not. It's about working to the point of futility. Look at this street, cleaner than licked by dogs. Since the beginning of this year, many business owners have been complaining that business is tough. No matter how hard you try, you can't make money, and the harder you try, the more losses you incur. It's better to do nothing and lie flat. At least you can hold on to your little bit of wealth. Why is this happening? Not long ago, veteran Chinese media figure Hu Wenhui introduced a new concept in an article: a historical garbage period. What does it mean? Hu Wenhui said, "History is like a competition. There are inevitably many garbage times. When the general trend is set and the defeat is irreversible, no matter how hard you try, it's just a futile struggle, and you can only try to end it as gracefully as possible." He cited the end of several Chinese dynasties as examples of historical garbage times. In these periods, no one could reverse the demise of the dynasty, no matter how they tried. And now, China is in such a period. That is to say, the Chinese Communist Party's defeat is already determined, and the overall situation cannot be changed. Instead of resisting, it's better to lie flat, and maybe you can minimize your damage. It is widely believed that since Xi Jinping started his third term in 2022, the CCP's defeat was set in motion. Politically, Xi Jinping broke the CCP's only political achievement from the reform and opening up era, which was the term limit. Ironically, this term limit was crucial for the CCP survival. Xi Jinping, through his 10 years of dictatorship, has eliminated this crucial element. Despite Xi Jinping's growing power, he has severed the party's survival. After more than 30 years of reform and opening up, when Xi Jinping took power, the Chinese economy had already reached its limit and started declining. This decline was sped up by Xi Jinping's campaign amongst Communist Party members to not forget their original intentions, and it happened at the same time as the pandemic. Xi Jinping's 3-year-long effort to achieve zero COVID further hastened the economic downturn. The trade war between China and the United States, as well as the subsequent trend of gradually decoupling from the West, have also accelerated economic decline. In recent years, not only have foreign investments been withdrawn one after another, but private enterprises in China have also suffered greatly. This has led to unemployment, salary reductions, reduced spending, and the closure of stores and factories. Many wealthy business owners have now become defaulters.
Completely bankrupt. Today I received another lawsuit. In total, more than 30 lawsuits. As someone born in the 80s, I've paid the price for my dreams and ideals. 20 years in physical manufacturing has made me lose 80% of my hair and ruin my body. Don't believe that pressure can turn into motivation. pressure will only turn into your medical history. Assess your own strength, and it is wise to withdraw in time.
This man tells the story of a classmate of his who, through 4 years of hard work in starting a factory, ended up turning his savings of 700,000 yuan into a negative 4 million.
I've witnessed almost firsthand how a boss who strives for progress has become a defaulter. In his first year, he took his savings and borrowed 500,000 to open a shoe factory. After 1 year, the profit on the books was 400,000, but a business client owed him 600,000, resulting in an actual loss of 200,000. He managed by using credit cards. In the second year, the profit on the books was 1.3 million, but the client owed him 3 million, resulting in a loss of 1.7 million. He mortgaged his house for 1.9 million. In the third year, he stopped extending credit, and as a result, there was no business. Bank interest, factory rent, and employee expenses resulted in a hard loss of 550,000. 3 years of hard work actually lost him 2.45 million. At the beginning of this year, environmental issues and moving the factory cost 300,000. Employee work injuries cost 80,000. If he completes the year, he'll lose at least another 300,000. 4 years of hard work and a pile of IOUs as a harvest.
This man's experience is typical and perfectly illustrates a popular saying in China now. At the end of entrepreneurship is debt. At the end of being a boss is becoming a defaulter. Due to bad debts and malfeasance, China's business environment was already very poor. Now, in an economic downturn, everyone owes each other money, and even honest businessmen have become defaulters. During a historical garbage time, no one can be self-righteous. Let's take a look at China's contract manufacturing. Contract manufacturing used to be the foundation of China's manufacturing industry, employing a large number of people and the backbone of China's foreign trade exports. Taking Foxconn as an example, as orders gradually shifted to Southeast Asia and other places, Foxconn factories across China either saw a reduction in orders or closed down. Recent data shows that Foxconn's export volume in the first quarter decreased by 58% year-on-year. Henan Province, which relies heavily on Foxconn, was one of the top 10 provinces in foreign trade for 10 consecutive years. In the first quarter, its import and export volume decreased by 48.7 billion, a sharp drop of 23.4%, and Henan also dropped out of the top 10 in foreign trade. Foxconn's capacity transfer has affected China's mobile phone production capacity. Currently, China's mobile phone production capacity is around 60%, down from 70 to 80%. In terms of the number of mobile phones, in 2023, Henan exported 57.6 million units, a decrease of 14.5% from 2022. Zhengzhou Customs data shows that in the first quarter of 2024, Henan Province's mobile phone exports decreased by 60.7% compared to the same period last year. This is a record-breaking decline. Foxconn is just one example. In fact, many contractors are transferring their production capacity, and the supporting supply chain has moved to Southeast Asia and other places. This has not only hollowed out China's manufacturing industry, but has also caused countless rural youth to lose their livelihoods. At this time, China's real estate industry is also collapsing. According to a Reuters survey, in 22 major cities in China, during the 5-day May Day holiday, the sales volume of new houses decreased by 47% compared to the same period last year, and by 30% compared to the same period in 2019. In 19 of the 22 cities, the sales of new houses showed a year-on-year downward trend. During the May Day holiday in Guangzhou and Shanghai, their sales volume decreased by more than 60% year-on-year. The slow sales of new houses dampened enthusiasm for real estate development. Data shows that the area of new developments in the first quarter of 2024 was 173 million square meters, a decrease of 28.2% compared to the first quarter of 2023. The obvious decline in real estate has also dragged down the economy, employment, and local finances. According to data released by the CCP, the fiscal deficit in the first quarter of this year has reached a staggering 1.6 trillion, with a fiscal deficit rate of 23%. In the first quarter, public budget revenue decreased by 2.3% year-on-year, with key tax revenues decreasing by 4.9%. The largest tax, value-added tax, decreased by 7.1% year-on-year, and individual income tax also decreased by 4.5%. Government fund revenue, also known as land sales revenue, decreased by 6.7% year-on-year. The only increase was in non-tax revenue, which surged by 10.1%. Non-tax revenue refers to various government fees, including municipal fees paid by people to the government, administrative fines, operating income of state-owned enterprises such as water, electricity, and gas, and natural resource utilization fees collected by the government such as mining and forestry. The significant increase of 10.1% in non-tax revenue means that the government has significantly intensified its exploitation of the people through various fines and fees. This is why we see almost every city's water, electricity, and gas fees soaring, and even high-speed rail tickets increasing in price. It can be said that the CCP has invented a new mode of robbing citizens. The enormous local government debt will be the next disaster. Data shows that as of the end of December 2023, the total debt of China's local governments has exceeded 100 trillion. China's GDP in 2023 was only 126 trillion yuan, and its fiscal revenue was only 21 trillion yuan. So far, the total debt of China's local governments plus the central government's debt certainly exceeds 126 trillion yuan, which is more than 5 times the fiscal revenue. The biggest risk among these is local government's hidden debts, which is the debt of local government-owned urban investment and development companies. Ironically, these urban investment bonds have become the key factor in maintaining local government finances in recent years. According to financial blogger Lao Man's analysis, in recent years, urban investment companies across the country have increased their land acquisitions. According to tracking of land auction announcements by major data platforms in various cities, in 2022, the proportion of land purchased by urban investment companies was about 40%, which increased to 60% in 2023. By the first quarter of 2024, it had reached 70%. Urban investment companies are actually owned by local governments. When they buy land, it is actually a game of shifting money from one hand to the other. However, most of these companies do not actually develop the land they purchase. They just use it as collateral to borrow money from banks, and then give it to the government to repay debt. This type of mortgage loan is not included in any local government debt statistics and is not subject to policy restrictions. Therefore, even without cash inflows, they rely on constantly acquiring land, mortgaging it to banks, and thus maintaining the game of borrowing new money to repay old debts. This also explains why government land sales revenue only decreased by 6.7% in the first quarter, while the new construction area of real estate decreased by 28.2%. This game of borrowing new money to repay old debts is like walking on a tightrope. In other words, as long as a typical urban investment company cannot repay the first principal, whether it is a publicly issued urban investment bond or the land mortgage loan described above, it will trigger a terrible chain reaction, implicating China's entire banking system. In fact, behind the nearly decade-long prosperity of China's real estate market lies deep-seated social problems. Firstly, the real estate boom has led to a serious misallocation of social resources. A large amount of funds has been invested in the real estate market, squeezing other industries and fields. Secondly, the soaring house prices have made it difficult for many people to afford homes. Many families have to shoulder decades of loans to buy a house. Now, as house prices drop, most people's savings may be wiped out, and their confidence in the Chinese Communist Party may also dissipate. Finally, the real estate market bubble has brought huge risks to the financial system. Once the bubble bursts, it will create a huge impact on the entire economic system. According to the first quarter financial reports released by major banks in China, both their operating income and net profits have declined. One of the main reasons for this is the collapse of the real estate sector, which has led to very serious non-performing loans in banks. The non-performing loan data of some listed small and medium-sized banks is jaw-dropping. For example, Guizhou Bank's total non-performing loan amount is about 5.6 billion yuan, of which 3 billion yuan comes from real estate. This makes the bank's non-performing loan ratio in the real estate industry a staggering 40.4%, meaning that out of 1 million yuan loaned to the real estate industry, 400,000 yuan cannot be recovered. Banks mainly lend to real estate companies for corporate services and provide a large portion of personal services through individual housing mortgage loans. This issue has a much broader impact. Currently, the total number of foreclosed properties in China reached 219,000 units. Each foreclosed property represents a bank's non-performing loan. In addition, the stock market has also plummeted below 2,700 points. It has not responded to government efforts to stabilize the market or Xi Jinping's directives. The loss of public confidence is another important feature of this garbage time of history. Now, it is almost impossible to find any segment of society that still has confidence in the regime. The lack of confidence in the private sector is best reflected in the concepts of lying flat and being lazy, maintaining the lowest consumption to sustain life. A large number of unemployed young people return home to live off their parents. This has also led to a lack of romantic relationships, marriage, home buying, and childbirth. Moreover, the rich are taking their money and fleeing, while the poor are illegally immigrating overseas. When people's confidence in a regime hits rock bottom, it turns into anger. We also see various extreme events happening frequently, with more people taking to the streets to protest. This is a precursor to the downfall of a dynasty. In summary, we can see that the Chinese Communist Party is currently facing a crisis, both politically and economically. And what's terrifying is that its diplomacy is almost in a state of disrepair. Firstly, it seems that there is no possibility of easing U.S.-China tensions. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China at the end of April did not reach any substantial agreement on any issue, especially on the issue of supporting Russia. As a result, the United States initiated a series of sanctions. On May 1st, the United States government imposed sanctions on nearly 300 companies and individuals, including more than 20 companies in China and Hong Kong. This is mainly aimed at entities in China that are helping Russia evade sanctions, including through physical entities in China. On May 9th, the U.S. government added 37 Chinese entities to its trade blacklist. The reason is that they pose a threat to U.S. national security or conflict with its national policy interests. According to the rules, once a company is added to the entity list, it is difficult for it to obtain products and technology from U.S. suppliers. In addition, the U.S. government has warned that it may impose sanctions on mainland banks that are involved in significant transactions to transport military or dual-use goods to Russia. There are also rumors that if these Chinese financial institutions continue to support Russia, the United States may kick these Chinese banks out of the SWIFT transaction system, which would be a huge blow to the CCP. China-Europe relations are also unprecedentedly tense. Chinese leader Xi Jinping recently visited France, Serbia, and Hungary, trying to ease tensions between China and Europe, but it may be in vain. During Xi Jinping's visit to Europe, the South China Morning Post reported on May 10th that the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China stated that European companies' confidence in the business environment in China has reached an all-time low. The report stated that more than two-thirds of respondents said that doing business in China is becoming increasingly difficult, the highest proportion ever recorded. As a result, members are increasingly hesitant to expand their investments in China and are continuing to evaluate the possibility of shifting to other countries. In summary, the CCP is now facing internal and external crises and has entered an irreversible garbage time in history. Exiled American media person Zhai Shanying said previously that the CCP's days are numbered, estimating that it will be overturned in 2 or 3 years. He said that there are many problems that are facing a catastrophic eruption, such as the South China Sea, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Taiwan Strait, India-China, India-Japan, RMB exchange rate, local fiscal expenditures, local debt, unfinished real estate projects, Hong Kong stability, employment, bank failures, stock market issues, etc. Each of these problems is a powder keg, already lit and waiting to explode. Moreover, all these problems are interrelated and cannot be solved. If one powder keg explodes, it will set off all the